Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Brown Bears Sports Report. I'm your host, Scott Credisci. I'm glad you could join us. Our Brown Bears Sports Report is brought to you each week by United Healthcare. You put care into everything that you do. United Healthcare does too. United Healthcare, health plans that care for you and your family every step of the way. See what care can do at UHC.com. Well, this week, it gives us great pleasure to welcome to the Brown Bears Sports Report the Brown women's rugby team. And with us tonight is their head coach, Kathy Flores. Kathy, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Well,
waiting for the spring season. Hopefully we'll have something.
Yeah, fingers crossed, right? And maybe
Exactly.
pull a little sevens this spring. That would be nice.
That would be great.
You have some of your student athletes with us here tonight. Junior Emma Jane Rodenheiser is with us from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Emma Jane, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Actually, I understand, are you not in your hometown of Ann Arbor, Michigan? You're somewhere else more pleasant.
My parents moved a few years ago, so now I am in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, very
big change.
Good. Yeah, you know what? As much as I like Ann Arbor, I think I prefer Phoenix a little bit more. And also with us, Emma Jane, is your teammate, Gemma Riud from Denver, Colorado. Gemma, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you for being with us tonight, all of you. And Kathy, we'll get back to you. It's been a little while since we played rugby, right? Fall sports were canceled, so no 15s. So the last time your team was on the field, did you get a chance to play before everything was shut down in March?
I think we had one, it was a sevens practice at 6 a.m. And then I think we found out maybe at 10 that it was all done.
Wow.
Yeah. So not really.
So it's been a while. So I'm sure you,
Yeah.
like student athletes, are probably itching to get back to play. I mean, we all understand why everything was shut down for great reason.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, not having rugby in your life for this long, it's probably a first.
It is. It is. And we all miss each other. I mean, I just miss seeing everybody together as one team instead of a pod of 10, you know, that type of thing. And I know that the student athletes feel the same way.
Emma Jane, were you on campus this fall semester?
Yes, I was. And it was great to be in that space for what it was, but it definitely wasn't, anywhere near normal. And it was hard to miss all the things we usually would be doing.
Yeah, so tell us what that experience was like. Were most of your classes remote? And then you talk about working out in pods in small groups with some of your teammates.
Yeah, I think Jim and I had pretty similar experiences with our classes. Some people were lucky enough to have a few in-person classes. Unfortunately, all of mine were online. So some of them were hybrids and some of them were synchronous. It was kind of nice to have synchronous, honestly, accountability. So everything was just on Zoom all day, every day. And so it was great then when we did have some workouts with the team. Again, it was nothing near normal. We were all there with our masks and we were broken up into different groups on our team. So you didn't see everyone, but it was still great to add that, routine back into our schedule for a month or so last semester.
Gemma, when this pandemic started, 9 months ago, whenever it was in March, I don't think any of us anticipated that it would last this long. What's it been like for you? Have you adjusted to, I guess, what has been the new temporary normal in terms of remote learning and things of that nature? I
think so. I hope so. By this point, I think this is it. This is the most adjusted that I'm going to get. So it's just sort of, it's tough thinking back on everything that we had that we didn't even know that we had to take for granted. But I know that when the fall rolls around and we can get back to it, it'll just be so much better because we'll have all of this that we couldn't have before.
What do you miss most about the pre-pandemic normal?
Ooh, well, just being able to be with each other and not thinking about it all, not thinking about 6 feet. I'm never thinking about 6 feet ever again, never thinking about masks or any of that. So just sort of being able to be very spontaneous about our gatherings and everything. I miss that a lot.
Kathy, I know you said earlier you miss just being together as a whole group, right? I mean, it was nice to see your student athletes in small groups in the fall, but not the same as having everyone together.
No, that's the truth. And I think that's what we all miss the most. And, the whole spontaneity thing is great, but just if we can just get back to some kind of structure, that would be great.
Kathy, now in your 7th season as head women's rugby coach here at Brown, and you saw the transition for this program from a club sport to a varsity sport. Take us through that. How exciting was that for you personally?
I think it was really exciting, not only for me, but for the student athletes that fought to be raised to a varsity level kind of thing. And I've always wanted to kind of coach in the NCAA when it turned into an NCAA sport. So I was super excited about it. But it's been a process, and the players are really starting to kind of dig into that NCAA D1 mentality, as evidenced by the fact that we went to a championship in our NIRA Tier 2 division. And we placed second, but was by a point. So it was a very tightly matched game. And I'm really think that's going to take us forward into the next seasons.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. In each of the last 2 years, your team has qualified for the postseason, has it not?
Yes, it has, but we haven't really gone as far as a championship type of thing. You know, we made it into the kind of semifinal round and then weren't able to progress. But this time we did, and the players did really, really well. And I only expect better things going forward.
Emma Jane, you and Gemma were both named NIRA All Academic Team members. In fact, for you, in each of the last 2 years. So congratulations on that. That has to be quite an honor for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to, be able to realize you can balance both academics and athletics at the same time.
So generally speaking, 15s in the fall and 7s in the spring? Do you have a preference?
Definitely 7s. It's so much more fast paced. I think everyone always says it's a backs game, and I'm a back, so it's my game. It's just a lot more exciting and more movement and running.
How were you introduced to the sport of rugby?
Yeah, I actually didn't play it until coming to Brown. And in high school, I played soccer, and people always told me I should play rugby because I played defense, and I always got, the team award of being brick wall, bulldozer, that type of thing. But there wasn't a team nearby me. And then my senior year of high school, I lived in Chile, and I played a little bit of pickup rugby, which was really fun. And it was just touch, but still got me introduced to the idea of rugby. And then when I came to Brown, I found out you could try out for the team. So I figured I had to give it a try.
Gemma, same question to you. How were you introduced to the sport?
I played in high school. My family actually moved to Denver right before my freshman year of high school, and I was just looking for something new to do. My whole life had just been turned upside down, so I was like, might as well add something else new to the mix. So I started, and I loved it. And then I was just looking to continue playing in college, and I met Kathy, and that was that.
And the same question to you regarding 15s or 7s. Do you also prefer 7s? That seems to be the standard answer. I think most people like the fact that, it's more wide open and more fast paced. Do you have a preference between the two?
I do love 7s, but as a scrum half, I do get to boss around the forwards and 15s and just kind of occasionally. So I gotta say 15s. It's the strategy of it and sort of the long pace. I love it.
Now, Kathy, I was looking at Gemma's bio, and correct me if I'm wrong, but on the bio, it said that Gemma was a captain as a freshman. Is that right?
Honest to God, I don't remember. Yeah, I think she was. Were you, Gemma? Were you captaining our 7s team or our 15s team? And we were kind of sparse at that point. So is that true, Gemma?
Yeah, I think it was 7s.
Yeah, okay.
That's really neat. Generally speaking, you don't see first-year student athletes as a captain for a team. What was that experience like for you, Gemma?
It was a little scary. I'm not gonna lie, but it was great because we had a very open conversation with our whole team about who we wanted to nominate as captains, and it was it felt like a lot of responsibility, but it was also a real honor that people thought that I could step up and take that position, and I wanted to live up to that immediately.
Emma Jane, tell us what it's like playing for Coach Flores.
It's great. Kathy brings a lot of energy to the field. She's great because I think the big motto is tough love. So Kathy is definitely tough love. She's hard on us on the field, but she also really cares about each and every one of us as people. So it's really great to have that balance. It makes it easier when she's yelling at us.
And Gemma, how much have you learned from Coach Flores? She is a U.S. Rugby Hall of Famer, as I'm sure you know, inducted in 2016. How much have you learned from Coach?
So much. I could go on for hours, honestly. So much in terms of very very minute details, you know, just how to pass the ball a little bit better. And then also, you know, very big picture stuff, how to be a good leader, how to look at the strategy of an entire 80-minute game, you know, just an incredible amount. I can't thank her enough.
Kathy, you talked about, again, seeing this program transition from club sport to varsity sport. And what's it been like for you in terms of, you know, on the recruiting trail and trying to build this program into a team that will consistently be a contender for postseason play and in the postseason? As you now, you know, get out on the recruiting trail, or I guess over the past 9 months, it's been more
Right.
virtual. But how have you and how has Brown women's rugby been received?
It's been a process, right? Going from a club team to a varsity team, because as a club team, people can come out, maybe practice once a week, and then they play on the weekend, and it's kind of fun, right? And they don't feel that it really bothers their academics very much. But when you're asking kids who didn't initially come to play rugby to donate 20 hours to a sport that you don't know and don't understand, you know, so we had a few years where it was a little lean, and also the players do a really good job of recruiting at the activity fairs. So we went from just taking anybody who just wants to play to really looking for athletes and crossover athletes, which is Emma Jane, a great crossover athlete. And we've gotten several other really, really good crossover athletes that could handle the strategy, the skill work, all of that. And so that started building our team, along with being able to recruit some players who have had just some previous experience. I mean, some of our our campus players that we've recruited, perfect. I mean, they could have been recruited players. They play that well and they get that far into it. So we don't make a super distinction between the two. We just want people to all rise up together.
Right. I mentioned recruiting. What's it been like the past 9 months in terms of doing it virtually? A little bit different, but I wonder if this is going to change the way recruiting's done in the future. That's not to say that you won't go and meet a recruit at you know, her family's
Right.
home or high school or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, I think we've all learned how we can incorporate Zoom meetings in our life and be very efficient in the process.
I agree. I think that it's really up to our level of communication with recruited players. So when I spoke with, Gemma is a recruited player. So we saw her when she came to campus. We saw some video by her, and I had been to maybe one event where I think I saw you, Gemma, maybe two. And that was the extent of our kind of communication besides email. But now I'm on Zoom with recruited players all the time, checking in on them, saying what's going on. So it's really improved our recruiting process, I think. And you're right, we'll still go out to be seen at these events, but we'll probably do a lot more by Zoom now.
Emma Jane, Coach mentioned, you know, 20 hours a week. And I'm not sure a lot of people that don't play college sports understand that it's really like having almost a full-time job when you're a full-time college student as well. What's it been like for you in your first few years at Brown in terms of time management, managing being a student at a rigorous academic institution like Brown University and being a student athlete playing women's rugby?
Yeah, I think it's honestly amazing how the time commitment ends up looking like, and like how, you know, smoothly it fits in with academics, because it does sound very intimidating. You know, you're practicing every day, you need to get out there and run and do skills maybe on days you don't have practice. But at the end of the day, I think that almost everybody probably agrees that it really actually helps you focus more when you leave practice, you know, and go to the library, which a lot of times we do together or did together previously. It just helps you have a lot more focus. So I think the time commitment is surprisingly like just makes me more efficient. And I find that when we're off season or like we're in a little break during the winter, and then this past semester not having rugby every day, I definitely wasn't as efficient in my academics. So I'd say overall, it's just really, you know, boosts and helps academics.
You know, Gemma, at a lot of great institutions like Brown, and this is the case at Brown, believe it or not, the graduation rates and sometimes the academic performance rate, believe it or not, is better and higher from student athletes than it is from the overall student body. And what I think that is attributed to is your overall competitive drive. I think athletes by nature are so darn competitive, and it doesn't matter what you do, playing rugby or in the classroom, you're driven by wanting to succeed and not, you know, wanting to fail. Do you think that's accurate?
I think that's true. I think we have a certain competitive drive that others might not have. I think there's also a team component too. Everyone else wants to see you on the team succeed. So, having this support network, that's huge. And without that at Brown, I don't know that I'd be where I am now. I don't know that I would have gotten the same advice and just been able to rely on the same support structure. So I think that's a big part of it as well.
Kathy, I talked to you about communicating with prospective student athletes, recruits. What's it been like communicating with your team these past 9 months? Have there been a lot of Zoom meetings with your student athletes as well?
To be honest, we haven't had a lot of Zoom meetings because I really feel there's a lot of Zoom fatigue for them. We try to check in with them. One time, I think we played Jeopardy. Other times we kind of check in and just see how they're doing and, kind of say what we've learned by any kind of meetings we've had, putting it forward and asking any questions, that type of thing. But I truthfully did not want to do a lot of Zoom stuff. We were doing it once a week, I think maybe twice a week because we split into some subunits, but we kind of stopped doing that on the regular because they were like really tired of it.
Emma Jane, tell us about your concentration. What are you concentrating in at Brown?
I'm concentrating in neuroscience, which is a lot of fun because it, obviously involves neuroscience, but then you end up taking a lot of different, biology, math, chemistry courses, things like that as well.
And how would you like to apply that in terms of what you'd like to do in the future when you graduate from Brown?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. It's definitely possible that I'll apply to medical school, in which case, definitely be interested in doing research or going into a specialty that had to do with the brain. That would be very cool. But I could also imagine like going into the medical device industry or some other, science related industry. So I think there's a lot of different things that I might do with it. In general, I just think it's really interesting. And the research that goes on in neuroscience at Brown is really exciting. So that's kind of what makes me excited about it right now.
Gemma, same question for you. What is your concentration?
I study history and biology, which is a fun combo. Get a little of both, get to write the essays and take the fun Orgo exams. So get best of both worlds, maybe.
Ideally, what would you like to do when you graduate?
I'm on the pre-med track right now, so I think I'll be applying to med school in the next couple of years.
Do either one of you have hobbies? I mean, obviously, we just talked about how time management's key. When things are normal and you're practicing 20 hours a week and you have your academics to take care of, it's pretty much school, rugby, and sleeping. But outside of that, when you're not playing rugby, when you're not, burying your nose in a book, studying for an exam, Emma Jane, what do you like to do in terms of hobbies?
This is semi-rugby related, but I like to run. I'd say that's my biggest hobby. And then the other big thing that I do at school is just working, so I guess working is kind of my hobby because it's a break from both school and rugby.
Gemma, how about you?
I started volunteering as an EMT this semester and I love it. It's become a really big part of my life. So excited to see how I can incorporate all three of those.
Yeah, good luck.
So Kathy, we don't know. We're certainly going to see how things turn out in terms of the vaccine nationally. And hopefully we do get back to normal sooner rather than later. But, the Ivy League obviously will have to make a decision. And when that is, we don't know. It could be late January, it could be February in terms of spring sports. So what do you do right now in terms of being in a holding pattern and not being certain about what comes up this spring?
Well, we're still sitting and planning about things that, as if we could go forward, so that if there is the opportunity to go forward, we have some plans in place of what we're trying to do to develop our players. I know it's kind of iffy with the vaccine and everything, but I just hope that even if we don't go off campus to compete, that we are allowed to compete within our teams, just be on campus, everybody be together, practice together, because we can always play sevens against one another, and that's fun. Pick out of a hat, have some fun with it. So those are the kinds of things that we're kind of planning, and we'll just see how we go. And we also have to plan for 15s in case they say you have to play a 15 season, in the spring.
Right. Emma Jane, when you two were on campus, you and Gemma this fall, tell us about the experience. I thought Brown did a marvelous job in terms of testing and really staying on top of the pandemic. If you looked at our, positivity rate and infection rate, it was very low relative to what was going on in the state of Rhode Island, maybe at other universities throughout the nation and really, nationwide. What was it like for you in terms of having to get tested a couple of times a week and all of that stuff?
Yeah, I also thought Brown did a really good job. Obviously, it was hard, to not have things that we didn't have, like rugby, but I was really happy with how it all worked out. And honestly, the things that they asked us to do, testing was so easy, like there were two very convenient locations. It takes, 5 minutes to walk through. They had a really, really good system in place that was definitely way overbuilt in a useful and quick way. So I'd say, the hardest thing about what was in place was just not being able to see people. But of course, like we all understood why we're doing it. It was just hard.
Gemma, as great as Brown's, I think, testing system and protocol was, it's only as good as the people that you're testing. And I think a big tip of the cap to student athletes like yourself, because, and students in general, I think the Brown student body took this very seriously. And I think that's why it went so well for the fall semester. Would you agree with that?
I would. Kudos to us. Yay.
Yeah.
I think we did a great job overall. And, like Emma Jane was saying, testing is so easy. It's so easy to schedule and go. It takes 5 minutes. And it's great, knowing that other, campuses might not be doing as great. You feel very safe and you feel protected as a community.
Kathy, if by chance we do not have spring sports and there is no season this spring, which is certainly a possibility, what would you like to say to your seniors? Because they may have played their last rugby match for you.
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? They didn't play last fall. Last fall, and now possibly not in the spring. It's more about them being. We've talked to them about being mentors to not only the younger players, because it's hard on everyone, and we know it's particularly hard on them. But it is about rugby, or any sport is more about just playing the sport. It's about being a good leader, being a mentor to your younger players and those types of things. And then we want to make sure that they understand how much we feel they've contributed to the team.
Well, Kathy, Emma Jane, and Gemma, thanks so much for joining us. Happy New Year to all of you. And we look forward to seeing you all on campus very, very soon.
Thank you so much for having us, Scott.
This has been a presentation of Learfield IMG College.